What we are going to be doing today is dreamers. So I wanted to show you some of the things that I have with me. I'm in my studio. I've been traveling and I waited until I was back in my studio so I could show you some of the materials that I have for when I made dreamers. And first I'm going to show you what's the book. This is the book Dreamers. And this is a story that I wrote, and also I wrote it in Spanish, Soñadores. I did write the story, but for Soñadores, in fact, if you look inside, you find a place where it says traduction by Teresa Malauer. And I do speak Spanish, and I do write in Spanish, but when it came to make a translation of Dreamers, which I wrote in English, we decided, my editor and I decided that we were gonna let someone who is an expert in doing translations to translate this book. So I am a writer, but I'm not a translator. Teresa Malauer is an excellent translator. So she created the text with me, along with me, we worked together, the text in Spanish. So one of the things that I'm gonna show you is how a book starts. What I do when I make a book is I always make files like this, and I put them in folders like this one. So I have many of these folders with some of the things and that are part of the process of making each book. And like this first folder is actually of another image. I was gonna be making a poster, and I decided to make an image that you might have seen around, which is something that I titled La Valiente. It's probably not so easy to see, but let's see, you can see this is a sketch I did about a woman. And this woman, she's a brave one. And she actually has a snake on her hand. And she's a woman like the woman in my family, in my community. She's a Latina woman, and Latinx woman. She's a woman who might be born in Mexico, or like I did, or in Central America, or in South America. And I wanted to make this poster because I wanted to both acknowledge and celebrate the strength of women, but also of women like me, women of color, women of brown skin, women who might be indigenous of the lands of the Central and South America. And you know what is an immigrant? An immigrant is someone who is born in one country and then goes and lives and works in another country. There are many ways to be immigrants. Not only people are immigrants, animals are immigrants as well. And why will an animal decide to go and migrate to another place if they were born maybe in Mexico? Like, for example, the monarch butterflies, just like this one. Monarch butterflies are migrant butterflies, which means that they are born in one place and then they go and move to another place to grow, to reproduce, to live, to thrive. Why do animals migrate? Well, a lot of people say because maybe in the place where they were born, there was not enough food. Or maybe there were too many predators, like for the monarch butterfly. They are always looking for the milkweeds. So for instance, monarch butterflies, some of them are born here in Mexico, but they travel very far. They travel all the way to Canada. Why would they go that far away when they could stay here in Mexico? Well, they go there because there they are finding the things that they can eat. They find the milkweeds, they find places in which they can have their babies. And once the weather starts getting cold in Canada and the north of the United States, they come back to Mexico where the weather is warm, and they can continue having babies and thriving and living and continue existing in this planet. People also do that same thing. Sometimes they have to go to a different place to find the things that they need to live a better life, to thrive, to find food for their families, to have a job, to find a place where they feel safe. And I decided I wanted to make a story about immigration. And I thought, I think that some people just don't know what immigrants really are. And if someone is gonna describe who we are, it better be us. It better be us who tell our stories. So I decided I was gonna tell my story because it's the one that I know best. And I wanted to do that so that I could also invite others, especially children, to tell their own stories. How is it that they came to the place where they are living now? And also to tell us and use their own words or the drawings or whatever they use to express themselves to tell us who you are. I like to tell things by making books. I like to write words and I like to make images. And in that way, I get to tell you things. You might have different ways to say things. I do it through books. And when I make a book, I do many things. I'm gonna show you that when I'm gonna make a book, sometimes it's just like such a big thing, like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna finish making a book like this, and I don't even know if I know how to draw well. I have to start with very simple things, and the way I start is actually very little. And let me see if I'm gonna try to grab some of my first sketches, which are in this place. And because I might get intimidated by knowing that I have to make big and beautiful and colorful paintings, what I do to start, because that might be intimidating to me, like, wow, what if I don't know how to do it? What I know how to do is I start very small. And let me see, I'm trying to see if I can have a piece of paper that I can use so that, because I use transparent paper, as you can see, it's called tracing paper. And the reason why I use tracing paper is because it allows me to put one paper in front of the other, and that way I can draw. Like, I make these little drawings. Let's see if you can see here. This is this drawing I made of a mother with a stroller in the baby and a stroller and with some books. Here's the drawing of a dog. Here is the drawing of the skeleton, so if you can see it. And it's carrying a book. And I always like to start with very little drawings, because these little drawings, you might see, they are kind of simple. It's like Señor Calavera is just a stick people. And when I do it that way, I can start having a sense of what I'm gonna create. And yet it's not too complex and too complicated. And if I make a mistake, I can always erase it, and I can draw again and again and again. I make a mistake, it's fine, because it's a little drawing that I can erase once more, and again I can redraw it many times. So I like to start small with these little drawings, and then I create what is called thumbnails. Thumbnails, I call them thumbnails because these drawings are not bigger than my thumb. If you see, these little drawings are actually very, very small. So they are smaller than my fingers. And with these drawings, I start imagining how I'm gonna tell the story. So I first wrote the story, then I start making little drawings called thumbnails. But those little drawings still cannot be in a book because they are too little. They are very simple. They don't tell the story quite yet. Here are some more of those thumbnails. But what will happen next is that I need to create something that is called a sketch. And this is not a sketch yet. This is just another thumbnail. And let me see if, because I take my pieces of paper and I just move them around and I make what you could call studies. Like this is the mom who is making the book. She has a thread and a needle. You will see it later in the illustrations. But later on, I have to make and create a scenes. And what I start doing is I start making my drawings bigger. And let's see, here's one. And again, I'm gonna put this here so you can see it. And this is, here is the mom that she's reading the book to the baby when they find the library. Like I make my drawing, like right here. So what I do is I take another piece of tracing paper, and I'll show you. I have my big roll of tracing paper right here. So if I want to refine it, I can put my paper on top of it, and using what I see underneath, then I draw it again, but I put more details, I change lines, and then I make it, I might even do research and see how things look like, so that then they start looking like something that I want to recreate. Like, how does a book look like when you hold it in a certain way? So I might take pictures, or I can draw again and again until it starts looking like something that I remember. You know, like I will use a book and then place it in this way and try to copy it. Maybe I take a photograph, and then that I use that for reference when I'm drawing. And I don't know if this happened to you, but when I was little, I loved to copy. I did a lot of copying because I was just learning how to draw. I didn't know how to do it. And part of my learning was copying. Also part of my learning was tracing. But when I was little, I always had this idea that tracing was like cheating, like you shouldn't do it. I felt like that because I thought that's not real drawing. That's like copying from somebody else who knows how to draw, and then I'm doing it here. So I thought that wasn't fine, and I was very wrong. Sometimes I even felt guilty. I felt like, oh, I'm not good at drawing. I'm not even a good artist or anything of the sort, because in order to make a drawing, I had to copy, or I used tracing paper. Now that I'm an adult, I know that that's just one of the most magnificent ways to learn how to draw things. Sometimes you see how other person did it, and if you use your pencil and trace over the things that that person drew already, maybe what you do is you put a piece of paper on top of it, and then you trace what you see underneath, then you start learning, like, how does your hand feel when you do that? How does your pencil feel? Like, how do you have to hold it in order to make a line that goes this way and that way? And then you also recognize that some drawings might have certain details, like to look like a face. What does your drawing need to look like a face? Well, you need to put maybe like a nose right in the middle of the face and the eyes on the sides. But sometimes we don't know it all by ourselves. So we can always go and look at what other people have drawn. We can look at photographs. You can ask someone, you know, that we can see how other people draw, so that we can also learn and try and copy what they do, so that we start learning how to do it. We get to practice. I have practicing a lot because I've been drawing for all these years that I'm alive, and now I'm a little better. But even so, most of the time when I'm starting a book, I don't feel like I know a lot. It's like every book is a learning process. I learn again how to draw things. Sometimes I don't even know how to do, like if I'm gonna make a stroller, I don't have the stroller in my memory. But what I can do is go and look at the stroller or find a picture of a stroller, and I can trace on that picture so that I learn how to do it.